All right, anyways. Any questions or comments about any of that? All right. Once we go into chapter 1 and chapter 2 is like the foundation for how we bond, how we attach, preparing our brains to be teachable, and the fundamentals, how you want to be, and the idea of us. So chapter 1 and 2 relate well. It's like that foundation, all right? The rest of it is how do we build goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy in terms of the skills needed, all right? And that's where we're headed now. All right, then. So if you will, look on page 37 in your manual. And on the PowerPoint, if you would bring up the first slide bring up the next one real quick for me. This one's not in. You'll have this on your PowerPoint. It's not actually in the manual. All I really do here is just point out that animals have primal emotions as well, all right? Animals can have feelings. There is a difference between the human brain and the animal brain, though, all right? And so animals have primal emotions, and those emotions get expressed in different ways, all right? That's all I want you to know, because we're going to talk about the brain here in just a minute. Now, if you look on the next page, and in page 38 in your manual, there are 3 words in the Hebrew language, and this should be the next slide. There you go. There are 3 words in the Hebrew language, and this is fascinating, that get translated into one English word, all right? 3 words, Hebrew language, translated into one English word. And that one English word is the English word intimacy. All right. The first word that gets translated into the English word intimacy is the Hebrew word yada. You might hear people go yada yada yada. That's actually, you see a lot of Jews do that, right? It's the word yada. It means to know. It means to know deeply. It actually speaks of a deep personal awareness of another person. The best way to help you understand yada is this. So let's say this is a timeline, and this is when y'all were dating, right? Remember back when y'all were dating, you call each other a lot? 3, 4, 5 times a day, right? Talk a lot. Then at some point, you decide, oh, we're going to get married, so you're walking out and you got married. And then you begin the journey of marriage. Now, down the road of marriage, most couples still call each other. But down the road of marriage, when most couples call each other, a question shows up very early in the conversation. And that question is usually in the form of this. What you want? What you need? Way back here, when you were dating and you called each other, who asked that question? No one. Then why is it down the road of marriage? When I call you, I want or need something. And if I don't want or need something, I don't call. But back here, you call 3, 4, 5 times a day, and you never ask that question. What were you doing? You didn't know. You were doing yada. You called because you wanted to know. Down the road, I don't want to know anymore. And if you don't want to know your partner, you can't build an intimate relationship with them. Because the Hebrew language makes it clear. You cannot build intimacy with someone if you don't want to know them. You'll actually find this word in Job 19, verse 14, I think it is, where it's, and these are all in your 3-reading notebook, the passage for this, where it says, Job says, there's our word intimate, my friends have forsaken me. What it literally means is my friends that know me deeply have forsaken me. Every single day, our Heavenly Dad does yada with us. Anthony, talk to me, son. Tell me what's going on. But we don't want to be known by him. Or we don't want to know our spouses anymore. You can call it well. Everything I'm telling you, I do. I hold myself accountable to her and my kids. But for the last 20 years, every day, twice a day, I call my wife just to do yada. Just to do yada. How are you doing? I have to leave her a message because she works at a school uniform shop where I usually can't get to her. But I leave her a message, and I do it with my kids. Of course, this generation goes, Dad, leave me a text. I don't text, I talk. But I always let them know that I want to know. By the way, if you don't want to know someone, I hate to say this, but it does beg the question, then why are you with them? If you don't want to know me, why are we together? It begs that logical question, doesn't it? We need to know each other. You need to know your kids. You need what their heart is. But the only way you're going to get your job done is if they know that you want to know them. And if they know that you want to know them, they're more likely to do the second Hebrew word, which is sod. Sod literally means to disclose. It means to reveal. It literally means to reveal a secret. You'll find this one in Proverbs 3:32, where the proverb says, he is intimate, there's our word intimate, with the upright. But what it literally means is God reveals himself with the upright. In other words, if I want to get to know Jennifer, how are you doing? Fine. Well, how was your day? Good. How's the family? Wonderful, thank you. Anything new going on? No. Well, how's your husband? Thanks, good. What's the message you're sending me? I don't want to talk, or we say, I don't want to be known. I don't want to be known. And if you don't want to be known, how can someone build an intimate relationship with you if you don't want to be known? The Hebrew language is actually making something very clear. You cannot build an intimate relationship with someone if you don't want to know them and you don't want to be known. Because see, what I think and feel inside of me is a secret until I what? Reveal it, until I disclose it. Because it literally means to reveal a secret. How you think and feel inside of you is a secret until you share it. But I've learned something. I'm not going to share who I am if you don't want to know me. Or if you're asking questions only to exploit me, to manipulate me, you don't want to know me, and you're not going to. I've learned to shut down and not talk to you. Does that make sense? You got to want to know, and you got to want to be known. Now, by the way, I ask you questions. You share. You ask me questions. I share. Sounds like talking, doesn't it? Interesting. Guess what brain research shows? The way you bond to somebody is by confiding in them. Confiding is a good word because confiding means that I'm emotionally open to you. And when I'm emotionally open, that means I'm telling you who I am and what's going on inside of me, my hurts, my fears, my dreams, my aspirations. But I'm not going to share those things if you don't want to what? Know them. Same time, if I want to know you, but you don't want to be known, you're going to teach me to quit asking. You're going to teach me not to ask anymore. Why? Because you convinced me after a long time you don't want to be known. All right, then. And here's what we know. Wherever you confide, you bond. American Bar Association Family Law Division, quite a few years ago in their annual meeting, reported that Facebook, in particular, but social media overall, is mentioned in 70% of divorce cases today. You want to know why? People are confiding to people online. And where you confide, you bond. Wherever you confide, you bond. Couples quit confiding in each other. They quit talking. I want to know. She wants to be known. She wants to know. I want to be known. And you can already sense if that happening, you can build intimacy, can't you? But by themselves, they won't. Here, let's say I go home today. Let's say my wife is home, banging pots and pans in the kitchen, obviously upset. I go home and say, hey, looks like you had a rough day. That's yada. She says, I have. I go, what happened? That's yada, right? She goes, you really want to know? I go, I really want to know. And let's say for 15 minutes, she just sewed and I did yada, right? So she dumps, I want to know. And at the end of her doing her revealing, sewed, I say something like this. Wow, sounds like you had a rough day. Hope you get over it. Is dinner ready yet? Ain't no sex that night. What message did I send? I don't care. Worst message you send to any relation, literally the worst message you send to any relation, that message right there. It's also the third Hebrew word. It's the Hebrew word sakan, which literally means caring involvement. It's found in Psalm 139, verse 3, where it says, there's our English word, intimately acquainted with all my ways. Sakan has to do with the motivation behind why does God do yada with you and why does he reveal himself to you? Because it's his very nature of care. And because he is caring, what motivates him to do those things is he cares. So if you do a literal reading of Psalm 139, verse 3, get rid of the word intimate, put the Hebrew word as it is, he is caringly involved in all my ways. So if you ask God, well, God, why are you involved in all my ways? He said, well, Rick, it's not rocket science. I care about all your ways. And the care drives the involvement. Now, you'll notice in the Hebrew language, something's very, very specific. Care and involvement will never be disconnected. They're the same. What you care about, you get involved in. So think of it this way. If I care about my ministry more than my marriage, where would you find me more involved? in ministry. It's not rocket science. If I care more about my hobbies than my family, my hobbies. If I care more about me than us, you'll be involved in you. See, everybody cares about, people think they don't care. He doesn't. I go, he cares. No, he doesn't. Yes, he does. He cares about himself. And because he cares about himself, he's involved in himself. This is not rocket science. Everybody cares about something. Well, serial killers don't care. Yes, they do. They care about killing. They care about killing, and that's why they do that. Until they quit caring about that stuff, right? Satan cares about evil. And that's why he's involved in it. Because you will always do the things that you what? Care about. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I was trying to get past it, but I'm the type of person, I'm very short and concise. Like, if somebody asks me how my day is going, it's good. Like, I try to work to say more, but if it's a good day, if it's just simply a good day, it's not me being short.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we get past being read that way? Because sometimes, well, I'm the type of person that simple answer is the best answer.
That may be true in some areas, but in relationships, part of her brain goes, well, what was good about it? People ask me, I said, how was that? Oh, that was great. I go, what was good about it? I just ask questions. No, I ask more questions. Why? I want to know you. That good doesn't let me know you. That lets me know something was good. But if I ask what was good about it, well, you know what was really good about it, Rick? And you start to open up, then I really get to what? I get to know you. You can't be known in short statements. I just know whether you like something or not, whether it's good or bad, but that doesn't let me know you. Intimacy is built on being known. This is why God, if you ask him a question, he will tell you. He left you his spirit. He left you the word. With me? He left us to church. And he'll use a donkey again if he has to. But he will reveal himself to you. Because he recognizes intimacy is built on confiding. So I'm not saying you can't be that way. I'm guess I'm offering you an opportunity to think in terms of, what if we gave a little bit more? What difference could it make? That's all. I'm not asking you to change your personality style. I'm just asking you to consider just offering more. Make sense?
Is that because from, men are just like that. Women are more detailed because we want to know, okay, what did you do when you left out this door?
Women are more connected to the emotional brain, which is the right side. Men are more connected to the left side. But that's not true for all, because that's more my wife. She's more the male. I'm more the female. I'm more the tender, nurturing, tell me what's going on, how you feel. Laura's like, I'm fine. What else? I'm like,
It could be also that the environment, I'm like that because my dad was just short, or either like you said, my mom was just short. It's just those things that we picked up.
things you learn from your past.
With us for life.
Very much so. Very much so. So if we're going to build intimacy, we got to build all three Hebrew words into our life, don't we? You got to want to know, you got to want to be known, and you have to do because you care. The Hebrew language is really, really simple, right? And I think relationships are actually simpler than we think they are. We just make them more complex, all right? And a side note, and take what I'm about to say with goodwill. Somebody mentioned to me about the love languages. I am not a love language guy, all right? And here's why, and hear me out before you judge me. The love languages are somebody's metaphors about how love works. The problem is they're insufficient. You notice I'm taking you to how the biology of the brain. This is how God made it so. I don't care if you're Slavic, if you're Chinese, if you're Peruvian, all brains work the same. All humans have those same 10 needs. The issue is the 5 love languages link to 5 of the needs. If your love language is physical touch, that means you have a higher need for what? Affection. If your love language is quality time, you probably have a higher need for what? Attention. It's right there in the list. Love language is acts of service, which is well, she has a high need for support. Got it? The problem is there's 5 more needs that they don't address. And what happens in books like that, Love and Respect, people take those people's writings and they make them gospel. This is the way it is. I go, no, it's not. It's just a man's conceptualization. That's all it is. But if you take it as the way it is, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Example, guy came to me many years ago, he and his wife, she's in divorce court. He's trying to save the marriage. And he says to me in my counseling office, have you heard of the love languages? Yep. He says, well, her love language is acts of service, and I do that for her. I do not know why we are where we are. And I said, so you're saying that you actually meet her needs in terms of love language? Yes, I do. Ask her. Does he do this? She said, yeah, he does. He does very well at it. He goes, see? I said, sir, what you misunderstand is this isn't about a love language. This is about your gross disrespect for your wife. You know what he said to me? That's not a love language. And I said, no, sir, but it is a biological need that God hardwired into all of our brains, and your disrespect for your wife is the reason you're where you are. He goes, no, it's all about love languages, and I serve her. And he's divorced today because what he couldn't move out of was this framework of how he believed this is what it is. Be careful of books like that. Got it? The reason I take people to biology is because we're all the same. All brains work the same, and all brains have the same relational needs. You might let your culture trump your biology, right? There are areas of the world, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, where women are oppressed and forced to wear all those, right? All you can do here. But why do some of those women fight back? Because something inside their biology wants to be respected. And some fight back, and some just collapse to it for fear. But we all have the same needs. So I want you to think in terms of need, all right? All brains work the same, and all of us are looking for these relational needs to be met. Now, let me give you a little bit about the brain. If you'll bring up the brain scan, picture for me. There you go. Now, I've been referring to the brain a lot, so here's this. You can get a lot more on this in different venues, but in Relate Well, we just kind of do a 1,000-foot view. All right, the brain basically has three primary functions, all right? The lower order brain down there at the bottom is known as the survival brain. That includes the amygdala, the cerebellum. This is the part of your brain that runs all your autonomic bodily functions for you. Your ability to think, your ability to breathe, your ability for your heart beating, all of those biological things your body does run out of this part of your brain down here, all right? This part of your brain, when it dies, you are clinically, medically dead, all right? You can damage other parts of the brain, but when the brainstem in that lower part of your brain goes, you are dead. This part of your brain also scans the environment for threats. So whenever you feel threatened, at 1/2000th of a second, you get triggered into a fight, flight, or freeze response, all right? We'll talk more about that when we look at conflict. This part of your brain is your survival brain. And it only cares about one thing: am I safe? If you don't feel safe, then you start to get adrenaline and epinephrine, and you get triggered. You feel it, all right? When this part of your brain is triggered, you only get a 6-second window to step in to that feeling and regulate it. After 6 seconds, your body is pretty well now under the control of the lower order animal brain, because animal brains have the same thing. Now, you want this part of your brain working, because if you're about to get hit by an 18-wheeler coming across Interstate 95, you don't want to think about that. You just want to what? You want to react. It's purely a reactive brain, all right? Wrapped around that is the emotional brain, known as the limbic system. The emotional brain is where all your emotions come from. Oh, all your long-term memories are stored here as well. This is why you always remember what you felt about something than you ever remember what you learned about something, all right? This part of your brain asks the question, am I loved? You feel loved or you don't feel loved. This is where those cares needs come from. It's in this part of your brain, got it? This is where I feel comforted, or I feel accepted, or I feel approved, or I feel affectionate, right? I feel secure, I feel supported. Those core relational needs are in this part of your brain. Animals have emotions as well. A dog feels happy. A dog can feel afraid. A dog can feel frustrated, right? Dog is happy, wagging his tail, right? Dog is scared, tucks his tail. Dog feels threatened, right? Whatever it does. Animals have the same part of the brain. The limbic brain, the emotional brain, and the survival brain are reactive brains. They have no ability to think or reason. None. But God gave humans a prefrontal cortex right here. This is our ability to think, reason, make decisions, perceive, and make judgments. This part of your brain is the here and now brain. It's conscious awareness. You with me? In other words, a dog can feel fear, but only humans can think about their fear, reason their fear, and consider their fear. Dogs can't. They're enslaved to it because it's all instinctual. Got it? We have the ability to step into that feeling and make decisions about it. Are you with me? And so we have to use the brain the way God designed it to. In other words, think about these verses now in light of what you now just learned about the brain. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your wrath and give the devil a foothold. In your anger, it's referring to the limbic brain. But if you're going to be angry and not sin, you better move to the higher order brain, regulate your lower order feeling brain, and make better decisions. To speak the truth in love requires you go into the higher order brain. It requires it. Because there is no love from the lower order brain, particularly when you feel threatened. Love has a tone to it. Even animal brains know that. People's tone doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. What if I say this to a dog? Come here, boy, come here. I love you. You're a great dog. What's the dog going to do? It's going to run. But my words are great. Even a dog's brain knows get away. What if I do this? Come here, buddy. That's right. Come on over here. You're dying today. I'm taking you to the vet. That's right. I can't stand you. I said, you're right, buddy. I hate you. That dog will come right up to you because the tone says you're what? Safe, even though you're not. You better use the rational mind to regulate the lower brain so you can speak the truth in, because love has a tone to it. Research shows that. The brain responds 92% to tone and body language, only 8% to the message. So if your tone is not loving, you've just triggered that person into the low order defensive brain. And they're not going to be able to hear your truth. Why? Because they're operating down here. But if you speak the truth in love, people don't get triggered. Now, does that make sense? Now, let's take a look at a Bible study, a Bible verse, and as it relates to your brain. If you'll pull up the next slide for me, that slide for me with the brain. And you actually have this in your manual too. You're going to see a PET scan of a brain, all right? That PET scan of the brain, those two pictures are taken 5 minutes apart from each other. The one on the left was first, the one was second, all right? A PET scan measures energy in the brain at a point in time. This guy is laying in a machine. He's laying on his back looking up so you can order yourself, all right? You'll notice on the first picture, that big red dot at the bottom, that's the brainstem. Energy in the brain, that means he's alive, all right? You see the area in the middle is lit up with yellow and red, and you'll notice there's an arrow pointing to it. That's the limbic brain. This is what anger looks like when you're being angry. This is what your brain looks like when you're being angry and sinning. Here's why. When this brain, this lower order brain, gets triggered into fight, flight, or freeze at 1/2000 second, you're not meant to think, you're meant to what? React. So what this brain does by design, it shuts off the thinking brain. It hijacks it. Because you're not meant to think about the 18-wheeler, you're only meant to what? React to it. To think about it could get you killed. So God designed your brain to not think, only to react. You want that working in those situations. But in intimate relationships, you better learn to regulate it. You get a 6-second window. Once you're triggered in that adrenaline, you have a 6-second window to step into that. Take a deep breath and regulate it. That's why people teach you deep breathing. Deep breathing exercises regulate the heart, which will regulate this brain. Okay? Because when this one goes, you get adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, it's already increasing your heart rate. Regulate your heart rate, you'll slow this part of your brain down, and this one turns back on. So the next picture to the right of that one, you'll actually see, after we did a 5-minute intervention with this guy, took another picture. You'll notice the red spot at the bottom. He's still alive. Notice the 2 dots off to the right side? He's still feeling, but what brain is now in charge? The rational brain. The first picture is what your brain looks like when being angry and sinning. The second picture is what your brain looks like when you're being angry and not sinning. You can see the difference on a PET scan of the brain when you're doing and not doing that verse. Now, my slide's 18 years old. New machines today, better technology. First picture stays the same. There's a difference in the second picture, though. across across the blue field, you can just leave that up for a minute. Across that blue field from the neocortex to those 2 dots, new machines today, you'll see about 3 to 4 thin pink lines that run across that blue field. What are those 3 to 4 thin pink lines in the new machines today? It's the motivation behind why this person is going to regulate themselves and treat you with goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy. What are those 3 to 4 thin pink lines? It's compassion. Compassion, brain research shows, is the regulator for the brain, from the low brain back to the higher order brain. Remember I said mature adults have 2 traits that the other 3 don't? In conflict, mature adults move to compassion and they move to cooperation. And yet brain research is proving compassion is the way to get there, which I find interesting because the most often repeated phrase used about Jesus in the New Testament is the phrase around compassion. He saw the crowd and had compassion on the crowd. He was moved with compassion. That's why I always joke around. Everybody's moved by something, either in compassion or Malox, right? But everybody's moved by something, you see. What will move you? Jesus was moved by compassion. Here he is hanging on a cross, and he says, Father, forgive them. They don't. That's his compassion statement. If we were to look at his brain, you'd see what it would look like. As opposed to the guy hanging next to him, hey, you, Jesus, I thought you were the Son of God. He's in the low brain, not even thinking about what's taking place. The other guy is in his right brain, his higher brain, and he goes, hey, you need to leave this guy. He's innocent. Jesus, would you remember me? He moved to the higher order brain and could think about what's happening. And he found out what reality is. He could see somebody else's perspective rather than just his. If you want to regulate yourself, you're going to have to learn to regulate your brain. You've got to move to compassion to get there. That make sense? Now, the next few pages are basically a lecture about listening. It's in the video. I'm going to skip over that. Also, one of the first, in your manual, all the green pages are the skills, all right? All the green pages are the skills, and if you want or will, I put a rubber band around all your skill cards. So if you pull those out now, all right, the skill cards are the communication skills. Don is having an app made so that Relate Well can have a phone app, so you can always put the cards, have it on your phone rather than carrying cards around, all right? But so if you open up, you pull up on page 44, you'll see the first skill. It's called heartful listening, all right? In other words, if we're going to build intimacy, we've got to learn to listen, and love listens. Got it? Now, I've already taught you one way that you can show good listening. It's by saying 3 words. What are they? Are you saying? Are you saying is specific to building a connection and building a relationship with someone so they feel you feel so they feel that you feel what they feel, but it's about putting perspectives together. Got it? Heartful listening is what people call active listening. And an active listening skill, you learn it in corporations, you learn it in the clinical world. Active listening is when somebody says a few words and you just paraphrase back what you heard them say, all right? That's me letting you know I heard what you said accurately, all right? So in the clinical world, in training, we're actually taught in graduate school how to sit in a chair, slight lean forward, open body posture, and we're actually taught to go, uh-huh, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, uh-huh, mm-hmm, tell me more. So that made you feel. That kind of stuff, right? But there's 2 listening skills we're trained in. One is called a content response, and the other is called an affective response, A-F-F-E-C-T, which means emotional response. Step 1 of heart listening is the content response. So if someone says, well, you know, I really had a hard day, and I went home, and my kids were just always disruptive, and I got really frustrated. And I go, so what you're saying is you really had a rough day, and your kids were really disruptive. Yes. That just let the neocortex know I heard you. That's all I did. But I want to send a message to the emotional brain that I care. That's heartful listening, or what clinicians call an affective response. So an affective response is where you repeat the message, and then you repeat the feelings. So if I was to say, so what you're saying, share something, Sky, from your past, good and or bad. It doesn't matter, if you don't mind.
We had great Christmases growing up, so that's the reason why I love Christmas as an adult.
Okay, so what you're saying is growing up as a kid, you had great Christmases, and that kind of carried over into your adult life, and that's why you love them today.
Yes.
That's the first step of heartful. What I did is just let her brain know I heard her. But I want to send a message that I don't only heard her, that I get it and I care. So you're saying that growing up as a kid, you had great Christmases, and that's carried over into your adult life. You know, I can tell by the way you're smiling about it, that's been meaningful for you, and I'm so glad you've had all those years of opportunity. That's heartful listening. I know, isn't it? That's essentially what Don did to me when he called me back about the dog issue years ago. He just did a heartful listening and said, I hear you and I care. And your heart settles down. You see? And that's the power of heartful listening, is just do that, all right? Just do that. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take no more than 5 minutes, share something with your partner about your past, good or bad, and I want you to do a heartful listening around it, all right? And then you share something with them, and they'll do a heartful listening. So take 5 minutes, no more. It shouldn't take long. Practice doing heartful listening. There are some examples on page 45 if you need to understand it a little bit better. One more minute. All right. What was that like for you?
It was so sweet. I liked it.
Isn't it powerful to just listen and then send a message that I hear you and I care? I see Jesus doing that more than he does lecturing. Matter of fact, you're going to actually see a pattern in Jesus when he deals with people. You always see Jesus meet the emotional need before he ever speaks the truth. Woman caught in adultery, he knew she needed to feel secure, so he put the Pharisees in their place, and he knew she needed acceptance because she was caught in the act of adultery. So he always met the emotional need before he ever spoke a truth. The only group he spoke a truth to and not met an emotional need was the Pharisees. He just told them what was going to be. But everyone else, You see his pattern. He meets the need, speaks the truth. Meets the need, speaks the truth. There's a reason for it. It's the way the brain was designed by him. Heartful listening, sometimes we don't want people giving us input. We just want someone to shut up and what? Listen. All right? I'll speak more about that in just a minute. Now, we're going to learn another skill. We'll break for lunch, and I want you to do this skill during lunch, all right? This skill I raise my children on. This is a confiding skill. It's on the next page, page 46. We call it a daily touch point, all right? The touch point is a skill for connecting. If you're working with a couple who's highly distressed, insist they do this no matter whether they feel like it or not. Because couples will not connect if they don't confide. Got it? When couples are in conflict, they quit confiding in each other. We need to hear, we need to confide. So if you come in for counseling, you're going to learn this, and I'm going to hold you to it. If you're not willing to do this, I'm not the guy to help you. Why? If you're not going to do what your brain is requiring for you to build back something, it isn't going to happen. So the daily touch point is a confiding skill, which means it's Yada Sod Sakan. I'm going to tell you what's in me, and you're going to listen, but you give no feedback, you give no input. This is not a skill you give feedback or input to. It's a confiding skill. I get to tell you what's inside of me, and I get to hear what's inside of you. Again, I told you I did this with my kids when they were little around the table. So the way the touch point works is the first thing you confide in each other is something you're grateful for. All right, now in here, I want you to share something you're grateful or appreciate about your partner. All right? And it's like, I really appreciate that way you clean the clothes. I appreciate that you did this yesterday for me. We all need to hear what's good about us. All right? And so the first thing you confide in each other is something you're grateful for. All right? The second thing is something that interested you, and then why. New things happen in all of our lives every day, right? And what we know through research is troubled marriages, they quit confiding in each other. They quit sharing what's going on in their lives. Thus, they distance, right? We need to be able to share what's happening in my life. In other words, I need to be able to confide in you what's going on in my life. Maybe something you saw in the news or something that you read or something that happened at work. We need to be able to confide what's going on and someone just listen and care, all right? The third thing you confide is something you wonder about or are not sure about. Here's why this is in there. Your brain makes assumptions about everything that it sees at about 1/200th of a second. You just don't know your brain does that. So your brain sees something and it assumes something. Got it? It's an automatic assumption, but you didn't know your brain made an assumption about what it sees, and then you impose the assumption on that person. All right? So let's say that, here's Herbert sitting there kind of leaning back with his arms closed. Back in my immature, childish, insecure days, if I saw that body posture, my brain would say, he doesn't like me, he's bored with me. It would make that decision unconscious. So if he raised his hand to ask a question, I wouldn't call on him because he don't like me. All of that was constructed in my own head. It's more mature to say, hey, I'm wondering if you're engaged here. I'm wondering if this is enjoyable for you. Rather than, why are you always so angry in the morning? Which is a complaint, which is stupid and immature. Hey, I'm wondering if you're angry. No, actually, I got gas and I'm just trying to hold it in. They can clear it up for you. Got it? But it's very dangerous to make an assumption on someone. Check it out as a puzzle or check it out about something you wonder about. I was teaching my work for quite a few years with the Air Force Special Forces. And we were talking about wondering in the touch point. And I said, one of the things I always wonder about is where is Osama bin Laden's body? That's something I wonder about. And this combat controller came up and goes, I can clear up one of the things you wonder about, Dr. Marks. I said, what's that? Where bin Laden's body is. I go, you can clear that up? He goes, yep. I said, where is it? He goes, the bottom of the ocean. I said, really? He said, yep. Which ocean? He goes, you can wonder about that. And I said, okay, at least I now know. Just don't know which one. All right? Next is something that concerns you. We need to be able to say the things that concern us. Next is you share something that you need to seek forgiveness for, and then ask for forgiveness. I recognize after these 2 days that I think I've been insensitive. Would you forgive me? And they can forgive or not forgive. Now, the next one is, we call it in our home a complaint with a request for change. This is where, we always complain about what you don't like, right? but you never say what you want differently. And so here, think of something that bothers you, but rather than complain about it, say, I noticed, there's a format, I noticed, and then what the complaint is, the behavior, and then what do you want different, and what I prefer is. So rather than, Luella, I don't think you care about me. Why would you say that? Well, I come home from work, you don't acknowledge me, you keep working in the kitchen. Well, I don't know when you're home. Oh yeah, you just say that. It's immature and childish. Better do it this way. I notice when I come home from work, you have a tendency to not acknowledge me. What I'd prefer is you give me a hug and a kiss, say hi. That's a lot more mature to say something that's bothering you and to share it in a respectful way rather than go low brain and share it as a complaint. There's no good value in it. Make sense? Remember I told you I raised my kids on this? So my youngest son, he's 27 now, but when he was at Florida State, he came home one weekend, and he was packing up to get ready to go back to Florida State on Monday morning, and he came into my bedroom and said, hey, Dad, you got a minute? I said, yeah. He said, I have a complaint with the Quest for Change. And I said, all right, what's that? Which basically meant he was pulling from the touch point to share something that was bothering him about me. And I said, what's that? He says, I noticed you like to give me input on the phone about me and my girlfriend. Usually she's with me, she can hear you. I request you keep those in private because I do care about what you think. And I said, oh man, I'm sorry, did you forgive me? He said, you're forgiven. We hugged, kissed him on the cheek, he went back to his room. Luella saw that exchange and she saw that I was smiling. She said, what are you smiling about? I went, he used his skills on me, it worked. What would an immature adult do? Hey, who do you think you are? Childish and adolescent. But my son had the ability to articulate something that bothered him in a mature way. And I knew he needed to listen and care. You with me? Next, you share something you wish or hope for. All right? On my 19th year of marriage, we were doing a touch point around, we did this as a family, and in my 19th year marriage, we got to this, and Luella goes, I hope on our anniversary, or 20th anniversary, we can go on a cruise. Well, how I know what her hopes or dreams are, she doesn't share them, right? And so I worked hard to make some extra money on the side. We got a cruise, and that was the year the 4 hurricanes came through Florida, so we went on a 21st anniversary, all right? And then lastly, something you want your partner to pray about for you in the faith community, all right? So Don, if you'd come up, we're going to show you what it looks like rather quickly, all right? We have 5 minutes to lunch. So I think it turns on this way, don't it? From the bottom? In the middle. Oh, there it is. All right, we're going to do a touch point. And so we'll show you what it looks like. All right, I'll start.
Okay.
I appreciate you, Melinda, coming down to hang out this weekend, but that you value what we're doing and relate well enough to be here and be a part of that. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate your years of loving me as a brother and friend. So.
That's awesome. Well, what I appreciate is the fact that you have involved me in this. I appreciate, I was telling Bob, I appreciate the first time that I really went through your material that you were teaching like the whole thing somewhere near Huguenot. And I just know it was on a second floor and what it's done for my marriage and to be so much better because as you said, we weren't really brought up, in the best way.
Yeah.
And I needed to become better for Melinda. So I really appreciate that you are so passionate about this that I got the value from it too. Okay?
Thank you. And when somebody shares appreciation, always tell them thank you. All right? Always receive it.
I also appreciate our friendship, that we're best friends and that the brothers thing is, just a side thing. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. It's more the best friend part of it, right?
Amen. I like that you're my brother.
Well, wait till I get to the.
Yeah. Complain with the Quest for Change. Yeah. I notice you like to invalidate what I say. It's something interesting and why. I'm a big reader, right? And you know that I'm reading that book on called Jesus and John Wayne.
I heard that.
And it's looking at basically how the evangelical church has fractured Christianity in America. And it's a hard pill to swallow for me because this author isn't wrong on a lot of counts. It's just outside of my box, but I'm learning some things I didn't know that makes me rethink some things in life. So it's been interesting for me.
Yeah.
Something interested you today and why?
Yeah. Melinda is wanting to start her online business, and so what interested me today was that she was interested in getting some online courses. Okay, and anyway, and so I just thought that was pretty cool. And he said, "Why it interested me?
Yeah.
Just because, we made this decision back when. Okay, so Eric's 32, so 30 years ago we made this decision for her to stay home and bring up the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're all grown and and gone, and so to me it was like, wow. So she wants to actually help and provide more to getting to retirement faster, honestly.
Ah.
And so I thought that was pretty cool.
That's deep. Something you wonder about, not sure about. I kind of wonder what God will do in helping us provide someone to help market, who knows marketing, to teach us how to relate well out there through the internet. Because I really don't know. I just wonder about that.
Yeah. That's cool. I don't know.
Okay.
It's
That's what I wonder about.
But I also know that the Lord will bring people into our lives for it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you
Anything?
wonder about?
You wonder about anything? Why I'm good looking?
That because you take after Dad, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of women thought he was good looking, right? So, no, I think I'll jump to the next one if it's okay.
Yeah, and by the way, in our work, we always say you can always have an appreciation, and you can always have a hope, but you may not have stuff in the middle. You may not. In this case, he goes, I don't have anything to worry about. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, anything concerns you. For me, it's just,
Yes.
I'm concerned where the nation's headed.
That's right.
I'm concerned about the division of our country and where that's headed.
Yeah, that's mine. I'm concerned about what can happen in November, no matter who wins.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's so much tension in so many ways that it really concerns me, and I wish we could have more unity.
Yeah. Something I need to seek forgiveness for. Nothing with you. I'll just make one up for the sake of the class, all right?
Yeah.
So you know what it looks like. Would you forgive me for picking my nose and putting the boogers on your white shirt last week? I realized that was not appropriate, and you were going out to dinner that night.
I forgive you.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, you get a sense what it would look like, right?
I wiped with yours.
And I forgive you.
Will you forgive me?
So you get a sense what it looks like. If there's something you need to forgive, all right. Something that bothers you like as a solution. You're going to be Jesse for a minute, all right?
Yeah.
You're going to be Jesse. I notice that when we talk on the phone and we talk about geopolitical issues, that you get so passionate, I'm not allowed to have a voice. My request is, I know you know more than I do. Just give me space to say what I want to say. That's all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay? That's what it would look like if I was
Yeah.
talking to Jesse. That's one of the things I would say to him. Yes.
You said, how did you
I notice and I prefer. This-
notice and I prefer?
Yeah. And actually, it's in your book there. All right? And instead, I would like or I prefer.
Oh, okay.
Okay? It's actually listed there for you. All right?
Okay. Ready for this one?
Yep.
I noticed that many times you like to kid around and you'll say, hey, you're Rick Marks and this is Donna Marks. We're married.
Yeah.
Because we have the same
Last
last
name.
name. I'd prefer you just call me your brother.
No.
In other words, stop it.
You see how well we get along, huh? My hope is that this church becomes the place that people know on the north side that if you want strength for your life, you want to grow, not just in faith, but in maturity, in the gospel, in that you want a strong, healthy family, that this becomes the lighthouse to this area of the city. And everybody goes, you want strong, healthy families? You go there. That's my hope. That's my hope.
My hope is that that you go out into the community, and even if they're not here, that you can inspire stronger marriages, that you can get fathers back in the home, so that we can start building generations of folks that can learn exactly what Rick teaches right here.
Amen. And then the last part is where we'd actually share prayer requests with each other, and we'd actually pray for each other's prayer requests. All right? Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Love you much.